Welcome back, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We have a really, really great guest. When I first had my buddy FitX come on, I watched a lot of his content, and I kept seeing Austin in a lot of his content. It was really, really great stuff. I would consider him almost like an experimental physicist on Tinder, man. There's a lot of really great info that we get from watching him. He's got over 1.5 million subs on YouTube, and he runs thedigitalromeo.com. Please welcome Mr. Austin Dunham. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm a fan of your content too, and I'm glad to be here, man.
Awesome, man. Well, you know what? The thing is, people were asking me to have you on because they said a lot of the things we were saying were similar. I watched and I found a lot of the same things, and it's really great stuff. So the first thing I want to go over is, well, the one thing we have in common, you were Air Force ROTC. Why the Air Force? You guys know I'm a U.S. Air Force officer. What happened there? And then eventually you decided to get out of that.
Yeah. So I joined the Air Force ROTC program when I was 18 years old. I'm 28 now, so that was 10 years ago. Freshman in college, and that was kind of my introductory to fitness, to leadership, and that was my career path. That's what I wanted to do. However, throughout that time, I started posting on YouTube, started getting some traction. Business started doing well. I made it to my AS400 year, which is my last year in ROTC. I wasn't commissioned yet, but I was sworn in. I completed field training. I had my AFOC and everything. I was going to be a cyberspace security officer. And I was stuck between, building my personal brand, online business, or joining the Air Force. And at the time, I decided to take a bet on myself. And in hindsight, it was the best decision I've ever made. But I think the Air Force ROTC for literally building my mindset, allowing me to become a better leader. And without ROTC, I would not be where I'm at today.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, being an officer for 7 years, the main thing that I think I studied was being able to prioritize situations because you can't solve every problem. And then the other one was a study in leadership. I'm constantly studying good leadership versus bad leadership. And part of the reason why I started this company was because I saw a lot of guys that were in the self-help space or maybe the pickup or dating space, and they had no ability to lead. That's why I love David Goggins. It's why I love Jocko Willink, those kind of books, because you see, I throw these big events. I have to lead maybe 100 girls into a bikini competition or something like that. It's a similar type of skill set. So that's why, I agree with you. If I hadn't been for the U.S. military, there's a lot of things, especially with this company, I wouldn't be able to do now. So it was really helpful. I didn't go to ROTC. I just went in to OTS after 9/11 happened. I had no idea I wanted to join the military until 9/11 happened. So that was a long time ago. And there was no YouTube. So I don't have that. I didn't have that out. I was pretty much going to have to join the military, but yeah, that's great, man. That's a great story.
Awesome.
So here's the thing. I consider you. So I had Dr. David Buss on here. He's a evolutionary psychologist, probably the premier evolutionary psychologist on the planet, most published. And one of the things I tried to explain to him is sir, you're the theoretical physicist and I'm the experimental physicist. I'm out here trying these things that you're doing. One thing I got to say is you are actually running not quite to the level of PhD scientific level experiments, but you're running a lot of experiments and you're using control samples. Like for instance, the one you did with height, where you're showing, hey, here's what happens with when I have shoes that are taller or shoes that are flatter, etc. Can you talk about this whole idea? And was this what helped you blow up initially? Was this idea of let me show you what works on Tinder and what doesn't?
Yeah, so I'm experimental myself. I think a lot of my dating strategies and overall the things that I've learned for myself has came from experiments I've ran off camera. And so through that, I figured out what works. And a lot of it, there was a correlation between the theories that I was hearing and that I was reading about versus what I was putting into practice. But after that, I decided to just kind of document it, and people found it interesting, especially the online dating experiments with Tinder. I went on Tinder or Bumble bald. I wanted to see how girls react if I shaved my beard, the height differences. And so I'm always trying to find new ways to just overall make dating and how women react to certain characteristics about men more interesting, because most guys have an idea of what women find attractive, but if we throw in different variables, will a person still get the same results?
Yes.
Because everybody's different, right? So I'm trying to just experiment and see what works and what doesn't, so it's fun for me too.
So you did bald and with hair, and I'm guessing you used Face App for that. That one was really cool. And then there's also where you had Chad, the guy from Turkey. who would go on there. And so you had people of different ethnicities to see if that had anything to do with it. There's been a ton of studies. I don't know. Have you ever read the studies on like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge? Satoshi Kanazawa's come out with some where they go over most right swipes are between 23 and 25. And then for men, I believe it's between 38 and 44, somewhere around there. The concepts of different ethnicities having different advantages and disadvantages on these dating spaces. Have you looked into any of that?
I've read some stats. I don't know them off the top of my head like you do, but I am aware of the data behind some of these experiments.
Yeah.
Definitely when it comes to age, race, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The other part was the big one for me was the data, and I forget which company came out with this initially, but there was a couple of them where it was like the top 10% of men on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge were getting something like 63% of the right swipes. The top 20% were getting 83% of the right swipes. The top 40% were getting 96% of the right swipes. And so you kind of point out, and when I watch your content, one of the things I see is there seems to be like almost like a status poverty level. If you can get above this, you get a ton of attention from women. In fact, you have women opening you. If you're below this line, you're just basically getting women trying to get you on their OnlyFans and prostitutes and unattractive women. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, I found that it's really all about leverage and your ability to correlate or showcase your sexual market value in different aspects through an online image. And so for online dating, obviously looks and image is obviously going to be very important, sex appeal. But even if you're not attractive, if you could showcase like different areas of being high status or maybe being in a certain group or network, there's many different leveraging points there, but yeah, I would agree with that overall.
So one of the things I got fascinated by, because I just had Alex Costa on, and then I had FitX on, and there was a lot of looks maxing that they were discussing, and I didn't even realize. I mean, when I saw like your first video, how different you look from there. Same thing with Bismarck, and I just think it's incredible, and I really do think a lot of men underestimate how much they can do to improve themselves with, like you said, like even the eyebrow razor. My girlfriend started using that on me, or
Nice.
getting your beard to a certain place to where it actually accentuates your jawline, or the ball fade. Like a lot of guys with the bushy things on the side, which actually doesn't accentuate their jawline. Can you talk about all these different things that you can do that actually help you as far as looks maxing concerned and make you more attractive, regardless of how you look?
Yeah. And so the first thing is when it comes to looks maxing, when you think about it at a deep level, all it is showcasing signs of health, signs that you're healthy.
Yes.
So the very first thing is just being a low percent body fat. That's like the first step. Guys who come in my program, guys who want to work on looks maxing, if you're above 50% body fat, you got to lose the fat first. Whenever you get to, I would say, 10 to 12% body fat, that's when your facial definition shows the most. That's when your jawline is attenuated the most. And that's when just most men tend to look the most attractive. In rare cases, it could be like 13 to 15% too. However, I find that like that 10 to 12% zone is like the sweet spot. And it is not easy either. That's why, that's why few men have, that body fat percentage and can showcase that, because it is quite difficult, especially as you get older. The next thing is hair. Hair can really make a man. In fact, most people say that hair is a man's makeup. So one thing I focused on, and one thing that I teach people too, is if you're able to grow a beard, try and do so. There's been studies done that showcase that a dense, dark stubble, for women, I think above 22 or 23, is said to be like universally more attractive than any other beard lift, including being clean shaven. So what I did is I used minoxidil for like 2 years, because before that, I was in ROTC, I was always shaven. I thought I couldn't grow a beard, but after using minoxidil, I was able to finally develop some stubble. And then from there, that's how I came into my look now. I've, enhanced my eyebrows, make sure that my hairline is straight and defined. So if you can just maximize your hair in all areas, it can really showcase signs of youth, and for that reason, make you more attractive.
I don't know if you've had this issue with some clients, but the unkept beard or the patchy or an uneven beard, for some reason, it's just it feels like. So I'm friends with Bilzerian, and I've seen this at his house, like the stuff that he does in order to like take care of his beard, and it's a lot of stuff. In order for you to be that ostentatious to have that much of a beard. You have to really take care of it. But I see a lot of guys, especially often they're Eastern European, stuff like this, and the beard comes out like an afro, like to the sides or whatever. And I keep trying to explain to them, like, this is a weird shape that you're making your face. And it's like there's sort of this patchiness to it. Can you talk about this? But because it's not this concept where it's like women like a beard, so grow a big, huge beard. It's like women like stubble. You made that distinction.
Yeah. So one thing guys get wrong too is that when they think of these hacks or things to make themselves more attractive, they go into a viewpoint of what they think men think is more attractive.
Yes.
So that's the differentiation between male versus female gaze. A male gaze in terms of facial hair is something like you said, the big bushy beard. It's very masculine. It's very quote unquote alpha. And if you are going to go that route, at least it needs to be sharp and groomed, which takes a lot of dedication. You know, it's going to be probably like daily grooming or every other day grooming. But you never want something that's big, bushy, looks unkept, because you just look unkept. And for the most part, a lot of these guys look homeless to some degree, especially if they, they don't take care of it and they just let it grow wild, So if you can keep it close to your face to insinuate your features and or grow enough hair to where you can actually create features for yourself. For example, some guys have, a recessed chin from the side, or maybe they don't have like a jawline. If you can grow enough hair to where it's dense enough to where you can actually shape that and insinuate that, and instead of getting like a procedure to put bone in, your facial hair can do it for you.
Yeah.
So.
You use the word dimorphism. You talk about dimorphic differences between men and women. And I think, well, a lot of the things that you're talking about, so for instance, a strong jawline is a dimorphic difference that happens because men have more testosterone than women. And also the other one was, when FitX was on here, he was talking about the hunter eyes. And so the other thing is, what you do with your eyebrow that actually can show, because men have their eyes sit further back in their head. You'll see with women, when they have more estrogen, their eyes are bigger. They sit bigger in their head. And so the reason why is this is a protective thing. Again, when men get into combat, battle, competition, whatever, this eyebrow muscle or this eyebrow bone is there to protect the eye. And so seeing that difference that you have between a man and a woman is also the jaw muscle is another one. And then the biggest dimorphic difference between men and women is upper body muscle. Men are about 200% stronger in their upper body and 90% stronger in their lower body than women. And these dimorphic differences, like you said before, they clearly show that there's two different genders, but you're actually separating yourself even more. And that's why that dimorphism is so important.
Yeah, but there's a layer of dimorphism that you got to be careful with, because there's extreme dimorphism, which is more the hypermasculine route. Yeah, and that's where you're pushing like a little too much dimorphism. So
that's when you're pushing Tren and Deca, and you're taking Anavar at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's mostly unnatural routes, But even the big bushy beard can be a case of like extreme dimorphism to where you come off hyper masculine, and that's more of a niche sort of thing. But yeah, dimorphism is also shown in the animal kingdom. Humans can relate to it too. Yeah. So
for sure.
Peacocks.
Yeah, for sure. Peacocks are obviously, peacocks showing off their tail to show that they have, better fitness. One of the things I really appreciate, one of the books behind me, Dr. David Buss's Evolution of Desire, he talks, one of the concepts is about male overperception bias and female underperception bias. And one of the things that happens is men tend to think, and this goes back to your previous point, that because they may have gotten on TRT or gotten a little bit more muscular, that they need to keep getting more, and the bigger they get, the more attraction that they're going to get from women. And what women prefer, so they do a scale where they ask men, what do you think women want? And then what do they actually want? And so men will say they think women want Arnold Schwarzenegger, when women really want something closer to Chris Hemsworth or even closer to Brad Pitt in Fight Club. So they want more muscular than average, but they don't want bodybuilder. Men, on the other hand, we do the complete opposite. Women think men want Twiggy, they want super skinny, and men want something closer to Kim Kardashian 15 years ago, like round, like a nice butt, nice boobs, hip to waist ratio. So women have this perception that men want them to be skinnier than they actually do, and men have this perception, this overperception bias, where they think that women want us to be more muscular than we actually are. And like you said before, body fat percentage probably matters more than just how much muscularity you have.
Yeah, that's true. And that's interesting from the woman's perspective, how a lot of women want to be skinnier or even leaner than what is considered, most men would consider attractive. Yeah. But in terms of muscularity, as long as you're natural, you have nothing to worry about. Yeah. Like getting too big is actually very hard to do. Most guys try to get too big and it never happens. So if you just stay natural, then you'll never have to worry about that. But absolutely agree with those points.
The other one that what I think you and I totally agree on is this idea of giving women too much attention up front. One of the things I really like is this concept of women are used to being hit on a regular basis, especially on these dating apps. I mean, it's like short-term sexual acts is what like a lot of guys are on there. There's 6 guys for every girl, I think, on some of these platforms, depending on what. Like, and I believe in India, it's like 11 guys for every girl, something like that. And so, one of the things that I see is like men will give women attention or attraction. I just did a dating show recently where I was coaching this guy, and he comes up to her and he goes, "That's a pretty dress. You have a pretty name." That she was like Nicaraguan. It's like, "That's a pretty ethnicity, whatever." And I was like, she didn't do anything to earn that. She didn't do anything to earn that. And if you made her earn it, she would be far more likely to be more invested. Alan Roger Curry says, no free attention. Do you, and I've heard you talk about this before. What do you think when it comes to this concept?
Yeah. So I have a saying that anything that's given out easily is never respected, even if you think that it is. So that also includes your attention and validation towards women who haven't earned it yet. So if you find a woman attractive, you can validate her on things outside of her looks and obviously, pursue her, create conversation. But if you're just draining your attention to her and it's not reciprocated, especially, that's when you're pushing the boundary of that quote unquote simp zone, and that's what most simps do, is that they just give out free attention with nothing in return. So my strategy is the fact that I don't mind pursuing a woman. However, when it comes to a lot of my time and attention, especially the free attention, and she hasn't earned it yet,
Yeah.
meaning that she hasn't made herself available, we haven't done bedroom fun, like whatever it may be,
Compliance.
then yeah, exactly. I'm limiting and reducing that up until we get to that point, and then that's when I'll reward her with more validation and attention, and for that reason, she'll respect it more.
Yeah. And I think a lot of guys get it confused when they're getting attention and they think they're getting compliance. Like, for instance, the big one is like getting nudes. Girls will get nudes from a guy and be like, "Oh, I'm getting compliance from him." I'm like, no, she sent those nudes to 30 other dudes. That's not compliance. Compliance is when she comes over to your house and gets nude. That's compliance. And a lot of guys don't understand there's a difference in validation. I had an argument with some photographers about this. They like every girl's photo the models that they like, and I was like, dude, this is a really bad game. Just to let you know, it's fine if you just want to shoot them or whatever. And they're like, no, these girls want encouragement and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'll encourage them when they come over to my place. I don't need to encourage them on social media. I highly recommend, and I think you said something similar, if men would just absolutely stop giving women attention for non-contextualized sexual photos, meaning bikini, ass shots, anything like that. But if a woman pays off her house, like that motherfucker, like that photo. When a girl finishes her college degree, like that. When a girl pays off her car or rescues an animal, like that. If a girl has a baby or gets married, like that. But the bikini photos, the fact that you like those and leave the heart eyes, you're just lowering your value.
Yeah, anything from a sexual validation standpoint, and a lot of women try to bait for a guy's attention too. Obviously, a lot of women do it for financial reasons or for just pure vanity reasons. But if men could just control themselves on social media, I swear that might fix, to some marginal degree, the dating market as a whole, because we know like a lot of women are more entitled for the reason that they just receive so much attention and validation. So for that reason, not only do they respect the man less that does that, but just men as a whole.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you've ever heard Homath before, but he talks about this concept of women being stuck on their highest setting, meaning like once they fuck Drake one time, they're like ruined. They think that every guy they got to date from that point forward. And by the way, Austin, there's probably girls that have dated you and like their following partners don't match up. And so there's always this issue. Bulzarian has talked to me about this concept where like girls he used to date, their boyfriends have to go to therapy because of the concept of like, oh, you were willing to have an orgy with him, but like won't have a threesome with me, stuff like that would happen. Can you talk about this? Have you noticed this concept where it's like because of social media, now we have an average girl in Wichita who can get attention from movie stars and rappers, etc. Like every girl I know here in Las Vegas and Los Angeles, Tyga has slipped into their DMs. I'm talking every girl that I know that's even moderately attractive. And so when you see this concept, it's like, do you see this concept where they get stuck on their highest setting because they fucked a 10, they think they can marry a 9?
Yeah. So in practice, it's hard for me to say if that is true, because obviously I don't know what they think or what they do after they see me, but I would assume so, anecdotally that would be the case, especially when I run some of these experiments. Some of these mildly attractive girls who don't have a lot of status. Sometimes I'll do these Instagram experiments and I see Michael B. Jordan liking their pictures. I see Chris
Crazy,
Brown
yes.
liking their pictures, and so with the access to high status men, attractive men, celebrities, it has just made everything a lot more difficult because she's like, why would I go out on this coffee date with this random guy when I had Michael B. Jordan or whoever inviting me to a party in the hills or inviting me this place, that place, and the more attractive they are, and I would say definitely the more status they have on social media, the worse that overall that mindset is.
Yeah.
If you can find a girl who, doesn't have a lot of experience, she's still mildly attractive, doesn't have a lot of status or Instagram followers, maybe has a private account, then that's when you're in the territory of, okay, she might not be tainted by these other men and stuck on our high setting.
Yeah, it was. I met my girlfriend. She was 20. She's from Southwest Arkansas and didn't have an Instagram. And I was like, "Is this real? Is this possible?"
Perfect.
And she was a finalist at the bikini competition. I was like, "I'm keeping this one. I'm not letting this one go." But yeah, you did mention that, and some of the concepts of like when you think about like Michael B. Jordan or Drake or whoever, it's like consider that these guys have a roster of women, and it's never going to end. They're like not going to stop. Meaning these men at the top will just keep fucking these women forever. Like they're not going to stop. And so it does consistently make it a little harder for guys who are average. They're just like, hey, man, I can't compare. One of the things that I started doing is I stopped looking at women based on their physical attractiveness, and I started looking at them based on the level of stimulus they receive, like what you said before. So, for instance, if I take a 10 who lives in Des Moines and she grew up with her parents, she goes to church and she's like studying to be a surgical nurse versus a girl who's a 6, but she gets flown out to Dubai. The girl who's a 6, even though she's less attractive, is going to be more difficult to deal with because of the level of stimulus that she receives and that she tries to receive. So rather as before, you used to think a girl who's more attractive is automatically going to get more stimulus. It's not always like that. And especially with FaceApp and Facetune, you see girls changing the way they look online. And so now a girl who's a 6 looks like a 10 online. She's getting attention, flown out to Dubai, flown out to Ibiza, etc., and or at least offers to go to dinner with guys for money, etc. And now you have a situation where it's like now you have a girl who's less attractive who actually is a harder person to date than the more attractive girl who received less stimulus.
Yeah, and that's a funny paradox too, because I'm thinking about some of the most attractive women I've ever been with were pretty easy to deal with versus, looking back at the times where I used to dabble into the average one, they were pretty difficult. A lot of them were. And me and my friends have talked about that quite a bit before. It's like, why are some of the most attractive women, are more compliant or just easier to deal with versus, the 6s, the 5s,
Isn't it funny?
very difficult. So it's very interesting, man.
It's really funny. I had Jeremy Miner on here. He's a sales coach. And I know Fit, he studies some Jeremy Miner stuff. And he said something I really loved. He's like, when I'm trying to coach these guys, it's like the most coachable people are the ones making $1 million a month. Whenever I talk to people who are making like $126,000 a year, they don't want to listen to anything I have to say. They think they know it all. And it's so funny because when I throw photo shoots or bikini competitions, it's this girl who has 3 million followers. She's like, yeah, I'm going to fly my way out there, pay for my own hotel room, and then I'm going to compete in your competition. Thank you so much. And then they show up on time and they're professional. And some girl with 2K followers who's like slightly overweight, she's like, are you going to pay for my flight? And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like these girls are showing up for free and you're like asking me to pay for their flight. So it does seem like that. Like the higher up you go with like more attractiveness and more professional the girls are, it seems like it's much easier to deal with them in business and with women.
Yeah, definitely with business too. I've noticed that also, but yeah, it's paradox. It's weird. I wonder why that is though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a function of stimulus, but also like I talked to Kindly Meyer. She's one of my best friends, and she's she's a huge model out in Tennessee. And if you talk to every photographer she's ever shot with, same thing with Chloe Teray, some of these other models, or same thing with Caitlin Runk, they're super easy to work with. So because they are more professional, that's how they got bigger in their field. Where there's a lot of girls, they're just like lazy, no call, no show, that kind of thing. It is a really weird paradox. The nicest, sweetest girls I've ever met are some of the prettiest ones, but they also have huge followings because they're willing to work. They're willing to take accountability. Talk about one thing real quick that I thought was really interesting, and where I think you and I probably agree more so than anything else was when you were talking about dealing with these really attractive women. Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge is a method for meeting them. It's difficult if you're not very attractive. If you're in I think the way it was. The bottom 80% of men on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge were deemed to be below average attractiveness by women. The top 20% were deemed to be attractive. and the top 4.5% were so attractive that women would actually message them. So when you think about it, as us as men, and it's a little different if we live in Miami, if we live in Las Vegas, where we might see a 7 and call her a 6 just because we see hotter women. But for the most part, men will see a 7 as a 7, an 8 as an 8, and a 9 as a 9. Whereas women will see a 5 as a 0, a 6 as a 0, a 7 as a 0, an 8 as a 5, a 9 as like a 7, and then like there's only like 3 10s, And so everything seems to be more skewed to the left. I don't know if that's something that you've noticed with these dating apps. That was the first thing, is the way to go over dating apps. You also talked about Instagram being a better way of talking to these girls. And then finally, you talked about the concept of networking, social events, and private parties and social circle as far as the way to actually meet some of the most attractive women.
Yeah, so they all work, whether it be cold approach, which is a little outdated, dating apps, Instagram, social circle, they're all means to find and meet attractive women. However, in some contexts, you're going to have a little bit more leverage.
Yeah.
So first, talking about the dating apps, I'm not sure if you've ever seen the guy side from a woman's perspective.
Yeah, I've seen. It's crazy. Yeah, I've seen that. I had my girlfriend, my female friends go through it. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And most guys just don't know how to present themselves. So even if they are a 7 or an 8 in real life, they present themselves as if they're, a 5, a 6, or they at least come off that way, whether they don't know how to take pictures, they don't know their angles, they don't know lighting. So many multiple factors when it comes to presentation. That's why I decided to teach it too. But also, for example, social circle, which I know that you're more familiar with, which I'm not. However, based on what I've studied and based on what I've seen, is that whenever you're in a familiarized environment to where you're already pre-qualified under a certain context, it makes it easier to make that connection with attractive women, especially if they're friends with, women who you might already be friends with, right? So I definitely agree with that approach too. And then with Instagram, the reason why I believe Instagram is great is because you can build your account up to be perceived high status and have multiple leveraging points to where, it'll make it a bit easier access, whether it be like a cold DM, or even if the woman finds your profile, likes a few pictures, DMs you, and then you can make that connection that way. I would say that, once again, the most attractive woman I've ever met came from Instagram. Like, we met through Instagram. That's how the connection was made.
Yeah, it's really important when you say that before. The concept of leveraging points is really awesome. I had Mystery on actually last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about this concept because he had not brought social media into his game at all. He's still just doing cold approach, indirect pickup. And I was asking about it. I was like, what about this concept of like, if I meet a girl and for whatever reason she's got to take her friend home, we're not going home that night, and she sees my social media, to create a time bridge to make it less likely for her to flake on me. And he was like, oh, yeah, that probably would work too. And I feel like it's one of the things you said before with cold approach. I think cold approach is great. I just think when people just do it alone, it's very inefficient. And the world's moved on. There's a software update called social media. And what it's done is it's allowed it's not just that you're competing against every guy in the bar, you're competing at every guy in her explore page now too. And she's comparing you to them, which has made things progressively more difficult for you.
Yeah, that's why I believe the importance of having an attractive Instagram profile showing you in multiple contexts is because whether you meet her through cold approach, whether you meet her through a dating app, eventually, and you should give your social media to potentially increase that attraction, right? Showcasing social proof, potentially showcasing forms of pre-selection, right? And then also showcasing your value through your your follower to following ratios, through your pictures showing you in high status environments, through you, as you say, showcasing access to scarce resources, right? There's multiple ways you can do that. Even when it comes to just being attractive, like showcasing yourself in the most attractive way possible, your personal leveraging points, whether it be a sex appeal, your physique and body, there's multiple ways to do it. But the more things you have in the total package, the easier it makes it. And I would say too, as a part of my little funneling system, or dating funnel, as I like to call, is that I always send women to my Instagram.
Yes.
And for that reason, I have noticed, a higher conversion, less flakes, and increased attraction on the back end for sure.
Do you ever worry? Because whenever I tell guys to do this, I do frequently. Do you ever worry about this concept of them thinking that you're a player because of the girls that follow you or girls that like your posts? Or do you just not care about that?
I just don't care because
100%
honestly, they're
agree.
going to assume I'm a player anyway.
Yeah,
I always get that. But once they meet me in person and, I have the ability to create conversation, to make her feel
yeah.
comfortable, having social skills, I always get the, oh, I wasn't expecting you to be like this, blah, blah, blah. You know, my character and personality is different from their image. They think I'm
Yeah.
going to be arrogant. They think I'm going to boast about myself the whole entire time. So they can make those assumptions, but at the end of the day, they still show up. So I really don't care about that.
Often when I have clients that come from like a structured environment, sometimes it's like some of my Indian or German clients, they come out with this idea that like, no, I need to present myself in a way to get a good girl. To get a good girl, and I don't want to come off as a player. And it's just one of the funny things where I found is like, no, you need to be attractive to all women. And like this idea of coming off as a player, it's even though women will tell you it's bad, you'll notice that the guys who come off as players still have better success with women because women will be like, they'll say shit, or even the best one is guys who hate on other girls or guys who hate on other guys. They'll be like, hey, don't go out with that dude, he's a player. I wish I could pay a dude to walk around and tell people that I'm a player or that to stay away from me. There's nothing that's more of an aphrodisiac because there's nothing that you can do that's more beta than player hating on another man, than being a snitch against another man. And so it's one of these really interesting concepts where it's like, this concept of being known as a ladies' man or a player, maybe too much, it could be an issue. But I think a lot of guys, they'll come from this standpoint where it's like, no, I need to get married at this certain point and I need to present a certain image. And if I don't present this image, then I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. So coming off as a player is bad.
No, I mean, it depends on what they mean by coming off as a player. It's like every picture with you with
Yeah.
models, stuff like that, then like maybe. But at the end of the day, like if a woman had the pick, she would rather pick a guy who has experience with women and that other women want.
Yeah.
The whole idea of mate choice copying or pre-selection,
Yeah.
right? As long as it's not like too overt and it's congruent to whatever your archetype is.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I come across some Instagram profiles and they'll be posting with the girls, but it's obvious. It looks like they ask the girls for a picture
They get no
and they
compliance from the
like out of
girls.
place.
Yeah, they get no compliance from the girls. Yeah, I heard you say that. I totally agree with you. Hips need to be turned in. Girls need to be smiling. You need to be able to see smile and boobs. There needs to be light. The girls need to be turned in and touching you, and you do not need to be touching the girls if you're ever going to take pictures like that. Exactly what you were saying before. Yeah.
Yeah, body language is important when it comes to photos.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So
the other thing I loved was the concept of familiar versus unfamiliar. This was, I heard Mac and Murphy talking about this concept. And this is what you said before. In a social circle environment, you actually have the ability to talk to more attractive women, but also you have the ability to talk to more attractive women when you're less attractive. Meaning they show that in a familiar environment, women started to see fives as fives, sixes as sixes, sevens as sevens, eights as eights. Whereas in an unfamiliar environment, it was just Chad Thundercock or Tyrone that they felt was the most attractive. So getting women out from an unfamiliar environment into a familiar environment, which by the way, that's all social circle game is. It's getting women from an unfamiliar environment to a familiar environment. That was another way for you to be able to, like, again, Austin, before they closed it down, the Playboy Mansion, I used to go there. I'm friends with Crystal Hefner. I would go to the Playboy Mansion, and it was one of the weirdest things you've ever seen. No girl would ever dare to be rude to you because she's like, how the fuck did this guy get into this party? Every girl there assumed you were a superstar just because you were at that party, because you're on the marquee sky deck at EDC, because you're on stage at XS, because if you're in any of these like super high status places, certain mansion parties or whatever, the Ignite parties with Dan Bilzerian, those kind of things. Whenever you were there, every girl was super nice to you because in from her mindset, you are in a situation that's super high status, so she assumed your status.
yeah, that makes perfect sense in environments like that. I would absolutely agree. And even when it comes to like, social events or networking events, like to some degree, like that's more of a familiar environment too.
Yeah.
So like literally just living a more social life, like going out or doing things more, having more friends, meeting friends through friends, like that's still a great way to put yourself in that familiar environment so that you can also have that, added to your arsenal of lead generation methods for sure.
Beautiful. And then the other one that I think is super controversial, I was telling my girlfriend about this. She thought it was great, was this concept of you messaging your friend's girlfriend. So guys will actually pay you to message their girlfriends to see how honest they are. It's funny. Home Math was the first person. I forgot what the name of this concept is, but it's some kind of like
Loyalty
truth.
test?
Huh?
Loyalty test?
Yeah, some kind of loyalty. There was another word for it, whatever, but I love this concept of a loyalty test. From doing this, what are some of the things that you've seen when you conduct a loyalty test on other guys' girlfriends?
Yeah. So first off, I would say that a good amount pass. I do showcase fails, but if they're in a solid relationship, if she has a private account, I notice too, she's more likely to pass. Honestly, if there's more barriers to just reach out to her, then they're more likely to pass. But if she has like a public account, she's seeking validation, she has bikini pictures, she has like a ton of stuff. I've noticed women like that more than likely fail. I've also noticed that if they're in long distance relationships, they're more likely to fail too. That happens a lot actually. And then also, this could be more from an archetype sort of thing. But if the guy, there's no nice way to say this, but if the guy is basically like a less status, less attractive version of myself, you know, then they're also very likely to fail the loyalty test, especially if she has a public account too. Yeah.
So I don't know if you ever watched Mac and Murphy, but he studies cheating. Like that's basically what he does as a PhD candidate. I think he's a PhD candidate, but I know he's studying psychology. He's originally anthropology. And one of the things he talks about is when there's a huge difference between the attractiveness of the man and the woman, there's more likely to be cheating. But it's not always the way you think. Often when you're a good-looking man and you're dating a woman who's a lot less attractive to you, often she's more likely to cheat. That was the one that like caught me off guard that I didn't expect. But yeah, you'll see that that'll happen sometimes when guys are shooting way above their weight class and they have to constantly show signs of status in order to keep certain girls. But I actually don't know if it's, like I said before, I don't know if it's as much attractiveness as it is stimulus. And you brought up that point too. You said when the girls have not private accounts, they have public accounts, and it seems like they're posting thirst traps. Those are the girls who seem to be more susceptible to some guy using attention as a leverage point to get them to show attention or possibly go on a date with you or have sex with you or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also say definitely on the point where they're with the guy who clearly leads with whether it be like financials or other means like that. I've noticed that has a higher probability of failure rate too. And I think it just comes down to genuine desire.
Yeah.
I'm not sure your take on this, but I feel like the basis of genuine desire is first of all based within physical attraction. Personally, I believe like you have to be a woman's like minimum attraction level physically, and then from there the other aspects of you, your game, communication, your status, or the experiences you can provide for her, etc., or lifestyle. Is like the cherry on top to like make it a complete picture. But if you're a guy where the woman really doesn't find you that attractive, but she's just kind of with you because you provided for her or because you give her access to certain things that she wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Then when a guy who she's actually attracted to comes along and he has all the same things that you showcase in terms of money or status, then that's also a likely high fail rate too.
I'm glad that you brought that up. So the concept of looks, right? And so the debate is always, do looks matter? And I know some guys who have a ton of status, money, really charismatic, and they'll be like, yeah, looks don't matter at all. And the reality is they do some. The looks obviously do matter a lot, like what you said. But what you just said right there, I can imagine black pill guys like clenching their buttholes and fucking not grinding their teeth because you were saying how looks mean so much. I'm sure you get a lot of criticism from the black pill guys. Is that something that you've seen?
I want to say like criticism because actually I'm not necessarily black pill, but I do believe like looks are very important. I believe it's like kind of the gateway and the foundation to everything else. But also keep in mind like for my dating strategy and for like the social media game presentation, all that stuff, is going to be a little bit more image heavy versus something, like social circle, like probably social skills might be more important in that context. If you're mute or have some degree of like autism, and then that might be difficult for you to even win in that environment, even if you're presenting yourself in the highest status male in the room, right? So it depends on the dating strategy, but a lot of black pillars have been agreeing with me recently, man.
I'll say they agree with you that you're getting the success because you show looks as to be number one.
Yeah, because I showcase looks because I believe that's a foundation. Because I believe guys should enhance their sex appeal. All that stuff in terms of image,
Yeah.
and because of social media and dating apps, that's why I feel like it's gotten more important too.
Yeah, beautiful. The concept of nofap and pornography. I heard you talking with my buddy Brandon about this, and it was the concept of like the strict nofap thing might not be the play. Like, dude, trust me, I understand if you're deployed for 15 months in the Middle East, this idea that you're going to just nofap the whole time, I think is a little ridiculous. But like, can you go into that? Like, do you think it's gone too far with that whole commentary?
Yeah, so the guys who are like crazy about nofap and treat it like a religion, almost always it's because they had a serious addiction, and in order for them to stop, they had to treat it as a religion. They had to go crazy with it, and for that reason, that's probably why they felt these superpowers of more confidence and being able to do a backflip. All the stuff that they say.
They can float.
They can float, they can fly, they can read
They
minds.
can predict the stock market now because they don't jerk off anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they went from doing it 3 to 5 times a day to nothing.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to feel better. You're not releasing energy. It's still like energy leaving your body. Like even me personally, I don't fap or have sex or nothing before I go to the gym. Never. Always ruins my workout, man. And I'm not sure if you heard about like boxers. A lot of boxers don't do it like before they have
Yeah.
fights. So I believe there's a correlation between like strength and maybe like your sexual confidence and other
Yeah.
aspects. However, if you can balance it and if you only engage in things like that to where you desperately need to where it's like a huge distraction, then personally, I have not seen it be a hindrance in anybody, especially successful men's life.
Yeah.
Only if it's a really bad addiction.
Yeah.
In that case, yeah, try nofap.
I believe I was reading some studies. There's some really interesting studies they did at UNLV where they looked at testosterone serum in men when they were gambling and when they were driving sports cars, and their testosterone levels would actually increase. So a lot of people are like, I have testosterone, therefore I act a certain way. But no, you can do certain things that will boost your levels of testosterone. Having sex on a regular basis actually does boost your testosterone over average. But like you said before, there's certain times where boxers will go, I believe, like 2 or 3 weeks where they won't have sex or do anything, and that will also boost your testosterone a lot, because you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. If you're a guy and you haven't had sex in a long time, your testosterone is going to go up so that you can do more assertive things, whether that be approach women or whether that be catch game for the tribe, whatever that thing is, show some level of competency and garner some access to scarce resources. In order to do so, that's why your body would reward you by not doing that for a while. And so you're like, when guys jerk off 3 times a day, they're losing that ability to do so. They're losing some of that focus, and it's incredible, man. I'm 46 now, and a few years ago, about 40 years ago, I started on TRT, and the difference between like my level of focus beforehand and now, it's so crazy. Guys will get on TRT and then all of a sudden they give up Adderall. They don't need it anymore. They don't need a lot of the things that they needed before, because testosterone really does help a lot with a lot of those things as far as paying attention or being aggressive or being assertive or being a leader and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting.
And even if there's some research within the first 7 days or first week of non-ejaculation, like your testosterone slowly rises.
Yes.
And I think you're correlating to that point too.
Yeah.
But definitely men should get their testosterone levels checked. Make sure you're at good, healthy level ranges. Go to a clinic. There's so many options available nowadays in the forms of different supplements, peptides, TRT, if you're old enough, that could be used to enhance that to where you feel like your most masculine and driven self. So
you feel like you're 19 again. And like it's just something that slowly drains from you. Like when you turn 40, all of a sudden it's like, it's not that you're still wise and you still think women are hot, but I'll tell you the biggest difference for me is like when I was 38, I remember I was dating this girl, she was really attractive, and I just wasn't that interested in having sex with her every night, maybe every other night or something like that. But I wasn't super, and she tells people this, and I don't disagree with you. That's how I was. And then when I got it on TRT, it was like a girl who was mid, who lived 45 minutes away. I was like, yep, here I go, 4 o'clock in the morning, don't give a shit. It's like, it just changes things. Also, when you lift weights, lifting weights feels better. Like actual struggling against a weight makes you feel better. I don't know how to explain it, but if you're, and also like I was telling Rollo this, because Rollo's 51 or 52, his birthday's coming up here next month. No, I'm sorry, Rollo is turning 55 and he's turning 56. That's right. And he was talking about when he started taking TRT, like the colors got brighter, right? He started seeing, because he just didn't recognize that these things were gone. You've seen he's like put on like 20 pounds of muscle. But so yeah, that's a really interesting thing. The other concept is, and I really like this idea, was if you're doing well with women and you're showing these high status, signs, being a douchebag on top of it is not helpful. It's not a good idea. And you talked about the level of humility. You'll go on a date with a girl and she will assume, because you're a good looking guy, that you're going to be arrogant and only talk about yourself. But you break rapport. You subvert expectations by actually being very humble and a good listener.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much my game plan, man. Go in, ask questions, listen, give stories, tell my experiences, but mostly keep the conversation focused about her. If I'm getting to, I talk so much about myself, like, what about you? Like, tell me about yourself. Like, that's how I know that, it's a good sign. And one thing I constantly hear too is that, you just make me feel really comfortable. If you're easy to talk to, is what they say. And so if they're saying that, that's definitely a good sign. That's important of social skills, man.
Yeah.
Even if you're a handsome guy, if you don't have the ability to make women feel comfortable through communication, like you're not going to go that far unless she's just like really attracted to you.
Yeah.
Even then it's going to be short lived. But if you can have that ability to just build that rapport, make women feel comfortable when they're with you and have that humility, like you said, you can really break some barriers down.
Yeah. You talked about that. Like, I'm sure you've talked to some attractive women, and they'll talk about a guy who's really good looking, and then he opened his mouth and then she wasn't attracted to him anymore because he kept talking about himself. I think because when we talked about male overperception bias, female underperception bias, I think because men, we're so attracted to women because of their physical attractiveness, we believe women feel the same way about us. And like a lot of times if a girl's really attractive and she says crazy stuff, we'll probably still sleep with her. But like women often don't do the same thing, and we as men don't grasp that. Because for us as men, there's just like kind of one stat we look for. There's one attribute, right? Like if you ever play Madden, like speed at 99, right? That's just one, physical attractiveness. But for women, it can be charisma, it can be intelligence, it can be height, it can be looks, it can be money, it can be all these different things that'll happen, and men can screw it up. And there's one study I saw, it was done, it was in the book Dataclysm, where they talked about, they were doing transcriptions of speed dating in the UK, and whenever a woman said me or I 7 times during the date, there was a high correlation of them going on another date.
Wow. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. People like talking about themselves.
Exactly.
Just the way it is. You can even correlate that to like networking and meeting other men, or just creating conversation in general. Ask questions, let the other person talk, give your take, give your experiences. But at the end of the day, people love to talk about themselves. So I would agree with that. Absolutely.
There was another thing you talked about where I totally agree with you, was this concept of business. At the highest level of business and sales and dating, you start to see identical features in those two areas.
Yeah, dating and sales is very correlated because it's people. You have a product, you want to sell it. In dating, that product is you. You have to market it, you have to sell it. Market it in terms of presenting yourself, selling in terms of the communication aspect, the building comfort, all that stuff. Or if you're using dating apps, setting up the date, the soft close, the hard close, all these little concepts that I've came up with and strategized have really came from the sales game. Is all very similar. Sales funnel, dating funnel, leads, high interest leads, warm prospects, cold leads. It's all very similar.
It is crazy. If you ever read Oren Klaff's book, Pitch Anything, he talks about, these are literal chapter names: eliminate neediness, frame control. Like, these are straight out of dating. I tell people all the time, my favorite book on dating is The $100 Million Offer by Alex Hormozi. Like, have an offer that's so good that nobody wants to say no to it. And then the concept of frame control is just so totally important when you're trying to pitch something, and it's very important when you're talking to a girl as well. Often you'll have a girl like will shit test you, and you'll be like, so what's your body count? How many girls you slept with? And I'm like, you remember when you went to the bathroom? It's like, yeah, I slept with 3 more girls while you were there. I've slept with like 8 million. Slept with everyone. You just don't give in to their frame. Their frame is you supplicating to them, or their frame is you qualifying to them with your body count, and instead you just turn it into a joke. And that's something that I found that works out really well, is that whole concept of frame control. But yes, the higher I get on the sales study, and the higher I get with like talking to more beautiful women, I found that they're almost identical. The techniques are almost identical. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all people, man. All people.
Social media versus cold approach. This is a really interesting thing you just mentioned before earlier in this. And I've talked to Mystery about this before. I just feel like it's not that cold approach doesn't work. I just feel like there's been a software update. I feel like if you're just doing cold approach, it's like you're running Windows 95 excellently, like a really crisp version of Windows 95, but there's new software updates that have happened since then. And can you talk about, let's go back to the business and dating thing. You want to sell a product. If I have an info product, I can scale it infinitely by selling the product direct to cart, running ads, and then going out and having events in real life and sell my product infinitely. When I show my higher status, higher sexual selection, higher access to scarce resources, relevancy, and competency on social media, I can scale it infinitely versus no matter how good I am at cold approach, I can never match those numbers.
Yeah, it's kind of like, knocking on door sales versus, sending like an email blast.
Yeah.
In terms of marketing and sales, it's just primitive to me. I believe cold approach can work in certain contexts and in certain time frames of people's lives. So for example, if you're a young guy, you're in college, you're in a social environment, you're always around people, you have a big network, even that's not really cold. I guess that's more warm approach, but yeah, and plus the availability of women when you cold approach, like you don't know if she's single in a relationship. A big objection you'll get is, oh, I have a boyfriend, whether it be rejection or actually true.
Yeah.
You just overall just waste a lot of time. And one thing I'm big on is creating value for yourself outside of just dating. So whether it be like working on your body, your business, leveling up in your career, whatever it may be. And so I want to minimize the time spent dealing with women by maximizing the other areas and using other areas of leverage to do so. I don't want to approach 100 to 500 girls a week personally. Like I'm not in the headspace to do that, nor do I want to. But if you're 19, 20 years old, you just made it to college or something, then by all means go for it. But if you get to, where you're 25 plus, you're not going to want to do that, man.
Yeah, it's what you said is so key. I work on all these other parts of my life, right? I show competency in my business. I'm financially set. I'm in a really good position with my physique and my health. I have really great social alignments, and I have a bunch of women in my life who possibly introduce me to more women. I'm used to being around beautiful women. Women give me access to incredible parties and locations and stuff like that. And the irony is you spend less time trying to talk to women and you talk to more beautiful women. And this is a huge misunderstanding, because I'm sure with your social media, you put a lot of work into your social media, but the ROI you get out of it is humongous. A lot of guys, the objection they give me is like, I want to do cold approach because I don't have time to do social media or social circle, not recognizing, no, it's an investment. Like you invest into real estate and then it pays you money over time. When you make that initial investment, it's constantly, and by the way, the returns are geometric. They're not exponential, they're geometric. When you just do cold approach, your returns are arithmetic, meaning they're 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. And so when you do the, like you said, with social media thing, the returns you get are so great that you actually spend less time getting better results.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Put work on the front end and then continually get results on the back end. Passive income.
Yeah,
if you
it is passive income for sure. Like you could you do very little. Again, like the concept. It's like, think of your Instagram almost, I consider it like an office. Imagine if you went to a personal injury attorney's office and a wall was missing, there was no couch, there was no carpeting. That's what it looks like when you have a social media where you're wearing a flannel shirt at a college football game where it's blurry and you're sitting there with 16 of your dudes drinking beer. That's what you look like to women. It's just like, I think one of the issues I have, and I think you completely you agree with me on this, is that social media for a man trying to attract a woman is a status game. It's not a showing pictures of you with grandma game. That's what Facebook is for. That we've retired those photos, we've archived them to Facebook. Instagram needs to be, you are competing with other men for access to like sexual selection and higher status. And if men don't understand, it's like gravity. If you don't believe in gravity, gravity's still going to pull you to the ground. If you don't believe there's a game going on, the game is still being played whether or not you believe it. And so many guys are like, no, I believe I'm special. I watched some guru on social media who told me that I'm enough. And I'm like, you can believe you're enough if you want, but the guy who actually gets it and takes care of all these different attributes is still going to steal your girl no matter how much you think you're enough. You're still competing. So if you just can adopt that and totally accept the idea, I'm competing with other men for these women. I've got to do things. I've got to keep my game up. And actually, be encouraged by that. Dude, I love the fact that there's some competition. I don't wish the game was easier. I just wish that I was better. And I think when you do that, I think it's a much more healthy way to look at this whole concept.
Exactly. And, you know, some guys, they have to allow women to be a byproduct, you know, build the social media for yourself. You know, you want to showcase and be attractive and, you know, do it for you. Allow women to just naturally come in. And that's something that I experienced because initially, you know, I was doing social media not to get women to DM me or to message women. Like I really didn't care about that back in, you know, 2018, 2019 even. But it was a byproduct of me showcasing myself in the most attractive way possible and doing that consistently over time to the point now where, you know, I cannot post for a month or two, and every week there's somebody's DMing me, whether they be in this state, different country, my same city, like, you know, passive income.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. This concept of like, so you mentioned before on Brandon's podcast that you were seeing one girl for like the last 2 years. I've been with my girlfriend for about 18 months now. There's things we had, you know, you have a plenitude of women to choose from. You have an abundance with women, but there are certain things that cause you to choose this woman instead of other women. You don't have to talk about your specific relationship. You can if you want. But what are the things that cause you to say, you know, this girl's great. That was a lot of fun, but she's probably for the streets. And then this girl right here, I think I want to explore and see how this could go further.
Yeah. So, and girls don't know, girls got to have a little bit of game too, you know. And so what makes me pick a woman for the long term is first, obviously, like physically attractive. Like you got to be physically attractive. I got to be like highly attracted to you. Second, I would say is the amount of compliance and value added to my life. Like, are you just easy to deal with? Are you just down? I say, let's do this. Yeah, sure. It's not, you know, there's no combativeness. There's no pushback. You know, I wake up and you know that I make 4 eggs and toast in the morning every morning, and you do it for me because you saw that I was busy. You know, like little things like that. You see dishes in my sink and you decide to clean the two to help me save some time. You know, just overall, just adding value to my life without me having to tell you.
Yeah.
And I think the girl that I'm seeing, she did that the best. And she was just, you know, just very feminine, just very nurturing, very reciprocating.
Yeah.
And for that reason, that's what really separated her from the girls who would, you know, they're attractive, but they just show up and don't help out or don't add value. It's kind of like, oh, what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You know, they don't reciprocate by any means. And a lot of women are like that, you know, and I believe as a guy, you have to run a lot of volume, and it's going to take it like a lot of digging before you find like someone like that. Like
hundreds. Yeah, for sure.
I'm telling you, man, I'm not going to say the number, but it took me quite some time to find a girl like that. And I've had girls similar who, you know, provided value or did this, did that, but there's always something missing.
Yeah.
Whether it be like, you know, I'm not fully attracted to them, or, you know, they were a bit like too needy or like extremely jealous that I couldn't deal with. So there's a lot of things that might be deal breakers, and it's going to be different for every man. But if you can find that sort of whole person, especially if they just get it,
Yeah.
you know, and then that's a winner in my eyes.
Yeah, and the other thing is you literally make content that talking about how to be attractive to other women, and can your girl deal with that? Or does she find these are kind of like I've seen as red flags also. It's like she was fine with you being attractive. It's similar to the guy who picks the girl out of the strip club and is like, I don't want you to strip anymore. It's like you picked the guy who was the male model who also teaches men to be more attractive. Are you okay with that concept, or are you going to start tripping about that? Because that's how we make our money, so that we can go on these trips and like have an incredible time together. Yeah, with Kylie, I've never one time asked her to make my bed, clean my clothes, wash my place, wash the dishes, and it was just like that. It's just she grew up in Arkansas, and so like that's the way it always was. And it, like you said before, it's like the concept of a value add. I think of Layla and Alex Hermosi, like building that business together, you know, and the same thing with David and Yulia, How to Beast, De Los Morenas, when these guys are like making each other deca millionaires because these women are pulling in the same direction with their partner. Grant Cardone and his wife also, like that kind of situation. I totally agree with you. The one extra thing is like, are you going to help me build the empire? Are you going to at least help with the empire? That's the other thing that I look for is that situation. You did mention this one thing that makes it a little bit more complicated. And it's something that I've added to my life, and I can tell you, mixed results. Sometimes most of the time it's great. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. And the idea of monogamy versus polygyny. And I don't mean polyamory. Polyamory is where both of you are open. I mean polygyny, where it's closed on her end, and then you and your girlfriend see women together. You did make some comment about this on with Brandon Carter. Do you have any opinions when it comes to that?
Yeah, so I truly believe that most men will want an arrangement like that, like ideally.
Yeah.
If they're true to themselves. However, I don't believe most men have the charisma, value, or leverage in order to exercise something like that. And that's primarily due to the social conditioning of potentially the woman who they're dealing with, and or just overall society, really. So it's I made a video on my Patreon page on how to fully get this arrangement. And I would say, as a guy, you have to be in a high point of leverage in comparison to the girl you're with, if you want her to be okay with this and agree to do it, because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Like most girls who you date or casually see or even make your girlfriend, if you present this to them, immediately they're going to be like, what the fuck? No, I'm not doing that. You almost have to like sell the idea, but even then, like if they finally get to a point of agreement with it, just potentially expect to like deal with potential drama or like changing of minds, emotional stuff. Because I don't know, me personally, anytime like I presented that, especially when I was seeing girls just casually, like even girls who I didn't give a title or exclusivity to, they still had a problem with me seeing other women. I think it is due to like emotions and their idea of what a relationship is, and monogamy programming and so many other aspects. So if you're going to arrange it, it's not going to be easy, and you have to have a lot of leverage is all I would say.
So the leverage point, I totally agree with. The other point I would tell you though is like screen for girls who are so bisexuality for men is pretty binary. Like they did a study with eHarmony where they found that men who claim to be bisexual were almost entirely messaging other men. So bisexuality with men is actually very rare. We're talking like 2%. Bisexuality for women is actually a spectrum. You'll have women that will experiment in college, and then some women who like literally just tolerate penis just so they can have a threesome. Like you have this huge spectrum. Some women who are like, they have threesomes when they're on coke and molly, and some girls will have threesomes like all the time. And what I found is that if you can find a woman who's above that 50% threshold, meaning she very much likes women, has gone on dates with women where there's no men involved, though who's the point guard for the Lou Williams? He was the point guard for the Hawks. He's openly dating a lesbian couple at the same time, and the guys were like, how are you able to pull this off? He goes, I'm not pulling off shit. It's like they're the ones who are doing it. What I found is that I don't see women without my girlfriend. My girlfriend and I will see women together. And so in doing so, the main thing that I found is if the two women are really attracted to each other, almost to where like you're an afterthought, that's where I see it works the best. That's where I see that in addition to the leverage point.
Yeah, that's actually a point that I mentioned in the video I created too about this topic, is that, if you find a bisexual girl, like presenting that is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because clearly they like women too. So the ability to now exercise your like for the same gender alongside with me, like, let's try it out, let's do it. And for the most part, I've also noticed that bisexual women tend to be more sexually open due to their experiences with their sexuality. And for that reason, they tend to be in more agreement for arrangements like that, for sure.
Yeah. Another thing I really enjoyed was, so you remember the movie Hitch came out a lot of times. And whenever you tell guys that, or you tell people that you help people with their dating, they're like, oh, you're like Hitch. And my answer is like, no, I'm not like Hitch. Hitch was trying to teach men to be attractive to one woman. That's what I thought was kind of scary about that movie. If you actually go back and watch and you consider that any of these men were unattractive, that movie would be about sexual harassment. The movie was about teaching men to be attractive to one woman. And the few guys, remember there was that one guy in the movie who's like, yeah, I just want to bang a bunch of chicks. And he almost got into like a fist fight with that guy. And was like, no, that was the guy who got it right. You talk about being attractive to the largest group of women possible. You talk about your physique, tattoo sleeves, all these kind of things, glasses versus no glasses. Can you go into this concept of not, because I have to talk my clients out of this all the time. They want to only be attractive to the good girls. And I'm like, no, bro, there's no such thing. You're just attractive to women in general. Can you go into that?
Yeah. Of course, yeah. So remember, dating is a numbers game and a volume game. The more volume you have, the better results you're going to get, and the higher probability you're going to run across that quote unquote good girl. So, in order to run good amount of volume, you have to be attractive to the majority amount of women. You cannot niche yourself down to a certain archetype, because you're not going to have enough volume, and for that reason, like you said, the glasses stuff, or maybe there's so many ways to niche down. Extreme muscularity, a ton of tattoos, even like there's so many different examples. But overall, if you can define what is objectively attractive and what is universally attractive, and if you can apply that to yourself to where you're attractive to all types of women, all types of races, all types of demographics, then that's when you're going to once again have that higher probability of finding potentially a good girl or whoever else that you might be into. So even me as a black guy, I don't niche myself down in terms of my hairstyle. Like I'm not growing dreads or
Mm.
showcasing what they call like the thug maxing or like the hood sort of stereotype. I'm very like clean cut, well spoken, and for that reason, I appeal to multiple races. White women love me, Hispanic women love me, Indian. I've been with Asian, like I've been with
Yeah.
black women too, not the hood black women or the hood
Yeah.
white girls, but for the most part, I still have that universal sort of appeal. And that's how I've presented myself and that's how I carry myself too.
I'm going to guess that there are probably a lot of girls where you were the first African American guy that they were ever with because you presented yourself
Yeah,
that way.
exactly. I've heard that quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
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 And so the other one I want to go over, and I really appreciate this. I say this on my show all the time. I was like, when a woman keeps telling you she won't sleep with you on the first date, and she just keeps bringing it up over and over again, you want to know why that is? It's because she slept with someone on the first date. You talked about the concept of women selling purity or telling you that they're celibate. Can you go over that?
Yeah, sometimes on dates you'll come across girls who will make it clear or very overt to you that, hey, my intentions tonight aren't sexual, or I've been in this phase of my life, so don't be expecting anything. And that tells me a few things. Like if they're celibate, two reasons. Either you're celibate because you weren't celibate for a long period of time, and now you're in a phase to where you kind of want to take a break from all the D you've been taking.
The epiphany phase that Rollo talks about. Yeah.
Exactly, especially older women, once 26, 27 plus, especially. Or two, you're just plain out lying. You're just trying to sell purity to me so that I can take you seriously because you see value in me, or in some type of way I position myself in the husband box, and for that reason, you don't see me as a fun time. And sometimes I'll put myself in this box by accident. Through conversation. If I'm too like invested into like her life or career or like what you want, like sometimes you can put yourself in that husband box, and for that reason a woman will kind of change her mind about you.
Mm.
So for the most part is has almost always been a lie once I get to know the girl, and I kind of do, we have conversations and I backtrack and I'm like, okay, you actually were not a celibate throughout that time.
Yeah.
They just love selling purity to guys who they find very attractive, or they
Yeah.
want some sort of commitment from.
Sleeping with your ex apparently didn't count. That's what they were saying. Yeah, no, the selling purity thing I think is really interesting. When they say that they're celibate or something like that, or something to that effect. The other concept, the reason why I think it's really important for guys to understand this, to grasp this concept. I just finished Alan Roger Curry's one of his books yesterday or a couple days ago, and one of the things he talks about at the end is why men become misogynists. And I don't agree with everything Alan Roger Curry has to say, but I do agree with this very much so. It's not when a man gets rejected by a woman; it's when a man wastes his time believing that a woman is like sitting there, like she's selling purity. She's like, oh, you should just wait. We're not going to have sex on the first date, second date, third date. And then she becomes like his male girlfriend. And then he finds out that she did sleep with a guy the first time she met him while their friendship was going on. That's where the resentment actually comes. And if you don't understand this concept of women selling purity, you can put yourself into that trap.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have a few beliefs that might be controversial. The first one is that no girl is ever like truly single. They're always either talking to a guy, planning to meet up with a guy, currently sleeping with a guy, whether it be their ex or a past guy, or planning to sleep with a guy. Like no girl's like truly ever just chilling. And if they are, then it's purely by choice for the reasons that I mentioned before. But yeah, but also in terms of girl game, and this is game for the girls, is that to some degree, you do want to sell purity, but you want to allow it to progress each time you meet the guy. So most guys are going to classify you as, a slut or easy if you sleep with him on the first date, or especially if it was really fast, like you guys talked for 20 minutes and then took you back to your place. Yes, and guys are going to think you're easy. However, if you let things physically escalate a little bit each date, so the first date, yeah, you guys hug with a kiss. Second date, you make out with some light touching. Third date, he gets close, some nipple play or something. Fourth date, you go all the way. And if girls would approach it more that way, the guy would still be able to get what they want, or it'll be mutual. Both will get what they want, but also the guy will also respect the woman more, and for that reason, it will turn into something more fruitful. And that's personally something that also has happened to me. And the girl who I'm seeing now is that the progression happened very like that. I'm not sure if it was planned or it was probably strategic.
Yeah.
But the way she went about that was very, very, very good. And I applaud that for her, because it definitely worked.
Yeah. And I talked to my my girlfriend, and it was the third night that we were hanging out. But by the way, I was hosting a bikini competition in Cancun, and there were 70 girls competing. And it was the third night we hung out that we ended up, being together. And she told me, she's like, I wanted to on the first night, but I wasn't going to do that on the first night. So that's another thing that you find out. Is there genuine desire? It's not a problem if a girl makes a guy wait 2 or 3 dates. It's just that if you're going to make me wait, but Chad and Tyrone don't wait, that's where I think a lot of girls don't see where the issue is. And a lot of guys don't recognize that you think you're a woman selling you purity, and it's her adaptation for you to believe she's pure. And she's not deliberately lying to be, malicious, but it's a situation where she's doing this so that you'll respect her more and find her more attractive. So it does, that whole thing does become very difficult. But I think the term I like, I've heard before, is women break rules for alphas and make rules for betas. And if you don't recognize that as the case, then when it happens to you, you're going to be very upset. I can't think of anything that would probably make a guy more upset than that whole concept of like spending a bunch of time and money. And I'll give you one other thing. You mentioned before about leading with money. I live in a city, and so do you, where there's a lot of sugar babies. And I'll talk to a lot of these girls because I'm really interested in their mentality. And they'll always be ridiculing their sugar daddy. Always. And whenever I talk to them, they're making fun of their sugar daddy. There's something wrong. The guy falls short in some way or another. And then there's always another guy that they're sleeping with who isn't paying them. Those are the things that I've noticed, is like when they're getting that guy who leads with money, there's always another guy who doesn't have to pay, who they're having sex with as well. And I just thought that was a really interesting concept. And if guys don't understand that, then what happens is you get led down this fairy tale path, and then those are the guys who get hurt the most.
Yeah. I've had scenarios where girls go out to these fancy dinner dates, restaurants, and I kid you not, they literally bring me the leftovers. I've been, the same night, or they see me the next day. Or one time, this girl was on this yacht that she got invited to by this guy. They had a party, whatever, and then afterwards she went home, cleaned off, and came to me, and I haven't taken her out one time. So that's where I realized too, is that it's just different rules for different guys. And the way that I go about my communication and how I frame it, I kind of position myself in that different guy zone because of my frame and the boundaries that I kind of set whenever I'm leading the interaction.
Like the guy who doesn't count. Is that what you mean? When you say different guy zone, what do you mean? I talk about the guy who doesn't count. Like she literally will not admit that you're on her body count, but she slept with you in Cancun. Like the guy who doesn't count.
That's definitely an aspect of it. And I'm sure I don't count list too.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the guy who doesn't even have to take her out on a date.
Yeah.
I've had many girls come right over the crib. But other guys, they have to take her out to dinner first. Yeah. Different rules for different guys. Yeah,
you'll know you're doing it right when you're sitting at home playing Red Dead Redemption and she leaves a dinner date to come over to your place and brings you food. I've definitely seen that before, for sure. And the other concept, I don't want to skip this over because it's absolutely true. And I know this because, living in Vegas, this is probably the most transient city in America where people come here, have a good time, people leave their morals at the airport. And the idea that there's always a dude who thinks that vagina belongs to him. I don't care which girl you think you're talking to or how single you think she is. And it's pretty frequent you'll talk to a girl and she's like living with her baby's daddy and sleeping with him every day, telling you she's single. I've seen this happen several times. There's they're always talking to someone. There's a study that came out recently where they found that 70% of married women admit to having a backup partner in mind. 70%. By the way, the divorce is initiated by women 70% of the time also. So it's just this interesting concept. And by the way, and you and I probably agree with this, there's too much red pill manosphere content that comes off as like hateful towards women. None of this is hateful towards women. It's just you need to know. It's like if I'm an oncologist and I describe what pancreatic cancer does, it doesn't mean I hate pancreatic cancer and I'm not condoning it, but I at least want to know the playing field that I'm on. And this is another situation where we should at least be wise to these concepts.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you have the knowledge and you're not, the whole blue pill sort of thing, just kind of living life in a fairy tale and just unaware and naive, then you'll set yourself up for success in this modern dating culture. And that's what kind of got me into this whole dating landscape was actually the red pill knowledge that I was consuming back in like 2020, because like before that I wasn't really hearing harsh truths to that degree being spoken. But in my own personal life and dating life, it was starting to make sense. I was like, okay, like when I don't get validation out too fast, they respect me more. When I do kind of showcase these characteristics, it does seem to be more attractive, or she does act this certain way when I do this or do that. So a lot of red pill theories, in my opinion, are true. And a lot of it also stems from evolutionary psychology, in my opinion, too. Like it has like ties to that, and that answered a lot of questions for me.
Yeah, for sure. When Ty Lopez introduced me to Dr. Buss, and I read The Evolution of Desire, and I started seeing, and then I talked to Dr. Buss on my podcast, and he started talking about mate choice copying. I was like, oh, there's actually a scientific term for being a player. Okay, I didn't know that. It's like, and it validates this thing that you've seen anecdotally, but you want, some academic bias behind it. Now, the problem is, I will tell you though, you'll probably notice this, there's a lot of evolutionary psychologists now that see how this is going and they're trying to shy away from this. And so I'm trying to create a space where we can have these conversations. Sometimes you talk about, Mac and Murphy, Alex Datesyke, William Costello, guys like that, like where we can have a discussion about this is what you've seen in the studies and then this is what we see in practice. You and I have probably had enough experience with women to where we know, like, I don't really care what the study is. I know these things work versus these things. Like, for instance, the dad bod myth. That was something, I didn't care how many women told me they preferred a dad bod. I knew what they were saying wasn't true because I had watched too many guys I knew who didn't have a dad bod have sex with too many women, and too many of these women cheat on their boyfriends with those guys for me to possibly believe that women were actually actively seeking a dad bod. Can you talk about that? I think you did have one clip about the dad bod myth.
Yeah. Women haven't talked about the dad bod for a few years, and they always mean either an attractive muscular physique with just a little bit added body fat, so instead of 12%, he's just 16%. They call that a dad bod. Or they just blatantly lie and just follow the trend, because women, like if one girl says it, another girl, and then everybody starts saying it, and it's just a plain out lie. And that stems also into another sort of red pill, sort of true sort of thing, is the fact that you need to look at their actions, not what they say. And so once you do that, it'll kind of dismiss that whole argument altogether, unless you generally just get with dad bods. And from that reason, that could be a deeper insecurity issue.
I've definitely talked to women who are like, that guy's too good looking and I don't want to go out with him because she's been cheated on before. I know one woman, she's a porn star, and she told me she deliberately looks to date ugly men, even though she has sex on camera with other dudes. She's like, I don't want to date guys that are too attractive because they might cheat on me. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. What did you say? It's pretty crazy, man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, even for both genders, if you date like a really attractive girl, to some degree, you have to have like a bit of groundedness, because other guys are going to hit on her. She might get catcalled as you guys are walking down the street together. Like stuff just happens when you're with an attractive woman, and same thing with a really attractive guy. And a lot of women don't want to potentially deal with that.
So I thought it was a really interesting thing. You could go back and tell yourself at the beginning of this journey, you're like almost last year of ROTC, if there were 5 things you could go back and tell yourself and warn yourself back then, what would those be?
In terms of life, or like dating?
In life in general, like, and it can't be buy Bitcoin at $5. Like you understand what I'm saying? Like just generalities in life. What were some things you would go back and tell yourself?
Gotcha. Learn from your first mistake, and don't get the benefit of the doubt, I would say. Just overall, just learn from your experiences and learn the very first time so that you don't keep making the same mistake, wasted time, wasted effort. So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing is consistency triumphs everything. That's one thing I have done right in my life is that I've always been just very consistent in everything and anything that I do. And for that reason, that's why I've seen results and success in it. It's hard for me to quit. Three, put 100% effort in everything that you do. And this is a mindset that I cultivated while I was in ROTC. Actually, is the fact that I wanted to be the best in everything that I do, whether it be fitness, the PT test, whether it be academics, whether it be learning a new skill. I was big in calisthenics, like fitness, so I wanted to be the best at that. At one point, I was solving Rubik's cubes for speed saws and times. I wanted to be the best in that. So I've had many hobbies in different avenues. I just wanted to be like literally the best in the world. That's why I tell myself I want to be the best in the world. So if I train and if my routine acts as if like I'm training to be the best in the world, then I have no choice but to succeed.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to beat me.
Yeah.
Where at was that number three? I would say always be learning. Knowledge is power. I've recently started reading a lot more, but even before then, like I've always been like an internet kid, whether it be like searching information on YouTube, Reddit, forums. The reason why I got into this too is that the fact that I've always been really intrigued about stuff. So
Yeah.
even when I was like 16, I was on So Suave forums and PUA forums learning about dating dynamics, and I was a virgin because it just intrigued me. So like have a curiosity for life.
Have you tried the double speed audiobooks? Have you ever tried that before?
I used to do that when I was walking, but I really just prefer just to get some paper and just read it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other tips you have?
And then also, health is wealth. At the end of the day, if you're not healthy, if you don't feel your best, if you're not operating at your highest efficiency, then it's going to be hard to remain consistent. It's going to be hard to tackle the everyday tasks, whether it be like physical or mental. Stay away from vices and drugs. You might think that they're not harming you, but you're not operating at your 100% max capable efficiency if you're diving in vices. I've done a lot of research on like dopamine and reward systems in terms of that. And now on a daily basis, I'm like, if I'm spiking my dopamine with cheap sources, like I avoid it because I have noticed a direct correlation into my mood and my motivation towards life and tackling my goals whenever I'm not diving in that stuff and just maintaining a overall just positive mental health and physical health.
There's been a lot of recommendations I've seen in like pop psychology that one of the reasons why men are troubled is because they aren't speaking about their feelings too much or they're not vulnerable enough. And I found in a dating context that the opposite is true. I found that men are way too vulnerable. I'm watching Tekashi 6ix9ine snitch to the feds, and I'm watching Machine Gun Kelly wear a pink dress. I don't really think that the idea of vulnerability is that big of an issue. You talk about women aren't your therapist or your problem solver, and it's something that as a man, I think you find out the hard way. One of the other things that I found is that when I talk to these girls, whenever dudes in my circle are talking shit about me, the girls always tell me very quickly, these guys, they run their mouth too much, they snitch on themselves. And then this concept of like you like giving, this is another idea. It's like you're dating a girl and you tell her all your secrets. As soon as you guys break up, your secrets are for sale. I don't know if you guys recognize that. That's something that happens. And so this concept of being overly vulnerable and women not being your therapist. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So a lot of women will say, like, I want you to tell me about your problems. You can speak to me. And sometimes when you're with the girl, like a lot of guys don't have like a big network or people they can go to their problems with. And so, the next best person is to obviously talk to my girl, pillow talk, but what men will come to find out is though she will probably accept and be okay with it like the first few times or if it's infrequently, but after a while, like if you're consistent with it and if you show like too much vulnerability to your girl, you're losing that sort of masculine frame. And for that reason, she'll start to slowly lose respect for you. Even though they say that they won't, I've seen in vast cases over time that they eventually do, and that leads to a loss of respect, a loss of confidence in you as a man, because women look for their man to lead, provide, and just overall be that masculine rock. So if you're just consistently being emotionally vulnerable and using her as your therapist to problem solve. And let's keep in mind, women are not problem solvers. So even if you do come to her with problems, she's not going to give you advice or how
Yeah.
to fix that problem. She's just going to empathize with you, right? And as a masculine man, you shouldn't want that anyway. I'm always looking for solutions to the problem. And so there are much better ways you can do that so that you can maintain that respect and boundary within relationships. Friends or networking groups, online social media, or even like online therapists. Like if you want to get an online therapist and
Mm,
have like private sessions or something, like do that. I would much rather do any of that before I start using my girl as my own personal therapist.
yeah. One of the things I think where the mismatch comes is the concept where women have two sort of things that they need in order to sleep with a guy. They need attraction and comfort. Men do not need comfort. Men will have sex in a cardboard box. So because of that, women confuse the things and they say, I like a dad bod. Like, no, a dad bod makes you feel more comfortable because if a woman gets pregnant, men start to produce more prolactin and they get thicker, they get fatter. That idea of the man getting fatter means he's less likely to go out and cheat, and women feel more comfortable about that. When men show vulnerabilities to women, what you're doing is you're raising the comfort level, but because that's what she wants, but you're lowering the attraction level. When a girl says, let's stay in and watch Netflix instead of you going to the gym, you're raising the comfort level, but you're dropping the attraction level. When she's like, don't work so hard, even though this work is making me a lot of money, getting me a lot of status, and getting me attention from the opposite sex, what you're doing is when you stay in with her, you're raising the comfort level, but you're dropping the attraction level. And I feel like often, because you'll hear women say this, I want a man to buy me flowers. No, you don't. You want a man who you're attracted to buy your flowers, because they don't understand the two concepts. The flowers bring comfort, but there has to be attraction beforehand. And the reason why I believe this is because women cannot conceive of men they're not attracted to being attractive to them. Just like we as men, we're the same way. It's like a girl we're not attracted to, we think is a 4. It doesn't matter what she says or what resume she gives us, we're not going to be attracted to her. That's just the way it works. And so often women will confuse the two things and they'll say, I want more vulnerability. I was like, if you and I have a baby together and I hold my baby for the first time and I start crying, that's vulnerability you deserve. We have built something together. That's something that's totally understandable. It's these men on the first date who are just like expressing about the last 3 women who cheated on them. This type of like excessive levels of vulnerability. And therapists are saying that this is a good idea. This is a terrible idea. Don't pay attention to what therapists are telling you. Pay attention to the men who are crushing it with women and notice their behavior, and that is not indicative of their behavior.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't even think to tell a woman something like that. Like, I find that baffling that a guy would even say something like that. That's insane.
It is crazy.
Like purposely positioning yourself as um,
A victim.
a victim. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's wild to me.
Yeah. The concept of leading into this, the transition is Stoicism. The concept of Stoicism, which is a lot of guys in this field have gotten into. My buddy Wes Watson's into this idea of. Also, Jocko Willink talks about this often. He's like, "Hey, you just made another $5 million. Good. Hey, man, your wife just left you. Good. Hey, man, turns out you have cancer. Good. Hey, man, the business just doubled in size. Good. Like, no matter what happens, you take it. You understand we're all going to die, memento mori, and everything you take is the same. Like, it doesn't, even though internally you may have some feelings, externally it doesn't affect your behavior. You talk about men smiling too much, things like that. Can you go into this concept of Stoicism?
Yeah, I just believe Stoicism is just a great thing that all men should practice. Going back to the dopamine thing, whenever you're not stoic and you have like high degrees of excitement, or you get excited for certain things, that can actually ruin your motivation, believe it or not. Like, even if you have a big win, you celebrated, you go out for drinks, you go on this crazy vacation, you spike your dopamine to artificially high levels. And then when you finally get to baseline, you're going to go below baseline, and for that reason start to feel like demotivated, probably a little bit depressed, and you probably can explain why. It's because of a lack of stoicism. And then also, um, when it comes to controlling your emotions, like that's a big thing that just a lot of men can't do.
Mm,
And that if you have the ability to master it, it's just gonna just overall make your life more positive. Because most men, whenever they act out emotionally, it's usually through anger, and for that reason, that's how fights happen. That's how people die. That's how people get charges, or just overall things that you'll probably regret. A lot of domestic abuse happens because guys just aren't stoic.
too
They let their
sensitive.
emotions too sensitive, let
Yeah.
their emotions control them. And so whenever I started to practice this, and trust me, it was hard for me, like, because it's hard for me to get angry, but when I am, it's been hard for me to hold it in. And so, through meditative practices, through being conscious and aware of my emotional state at the current time, through being able to walk away, then allow myself to calm down and then address the situation instead of like acting out in an emotional state right there, or especially making emotional decisions. Emotional decisions are never permanent, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
breakups, a lot of that is like emotional decisions, and for that reason, that's why a lot of people get back together. So I try not to make emotional decisions. I always try to be in a clear head and just overall practice to some degree stoicism, so that I can just control my emotions. And if every guy did the same, the world would be just an overall just calmer place.
Yeah. When you guys want to think of the opposite of stoicism, just consider Will Smith, right? He goes up on stage because someone talked about his wife who barely cared about him at all, and he slapped another man. And when in fact, when you listen to him scream, he's saying, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." You can hear his voice crack. Like excessive estrogen levels. Like you can hear that what's happened is he's lost control. That's what happens when people talk about excessive amounts of violence, domestic abuse. That's what happens with excessive levels of vulnerability. Remember, we're the bigger, stronger gender. We need to control ourselves. When we control ourselves, there's peace, and we also build society. We build skyscrapers, and we put a man on the moon. That's what happens when we control our emotions and we work together in order to get to a common cause. And I feel like when women are very emotional and they see that you're not reacting to them, a couple things happen. Remember we talked about attraction and comfort. When a woman is trying to get a reaction out of you and you're not giving her that reaction, you're actually might be hurting comfort or keeping comfort the same, but you're raising attraction. You're raising attraction because she understands I'm with a man who's a leader. He is not being pulled off of his path and purpose because of this drama that I'm trying to suck him into, because of the thing that I accused him of, because of the attack or the exaggeration or whatever shit test that she did. You're not being pulled off sides. And by doing so, even though she may lose comfort, I've had women tell me this before, we're in the middle of an argument and they say some horrible things. And then afterwards you're like, I'm really happy you put me in my place. And it's very difficult for men to grasp that, because until you get to the other side and you stand up for yourself, you're not going to believe it's real.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, it's hard to put in practice, but whenever you're in that emotional state, like take a break for a moment. 5-second rule. You probably learned that when you was in high school.
Yeah.
Walk away and wait until you calm down before you make emotional decisions or take any emotional action.
Yeah. Do you do any biohacking? And so I was with the guys who run V Shreds a couple days ago. We were playing paintball at Blazarian's house, and they talked about going for a walk and like what a hack that is. So going for a walk, this is what really brilliant people do whenever they have to make decisions. Do you do anything? Cold plunge, peptides, Oura ring, anything like that? Intermittent fasting?
Yeah, I do all that. I track my sleep with the Oura ring.
Yeah.
I get sunlight first thing in the morning. I go on walks. I read. I meditate occasionally. I don't do cold plunges, but I do roll my face with an ice roller.
Wow.
In the morning. I can't do cold. I'm not a cold guy,
Bro,
but this is like the second best thing for me.
It is life-changing. I hate it every time I do it, but no more hip pain, no more knee pain, no more joint pain. You have this stamina afterwards. The best thing for cold plunges is when you have that bloated feeling after eating a big meal. You go do the cold plunge and it just goes away immediately. It's really incredible, some of the things that you can do with it. But I'm telling you, you're right. It's hard. It's difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, we have one built in a bathtub, my next door neighbor, and I use it twice a day, and sometimes 3 times a day, and it's every time it sucks. Every time it sucks. I have a buddy of mine. He's got the expensive one, the $8,000 one, where it goes down to 34 degrees Fahrenheit, and he sits in there for 5 minutes while he's playing chess. And he's like addicted. Rolo came and did it one time with me, and now he's addicted. He's like, I have to do it all the time now. I was like, I want to do it because it just resets everything in your mind. I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like if you've ever jumped out of an airplane afterwards, you're just totally in the present moment. When you get out of the cold plunge, every time there's this feeling of euphoria, you just survived something. If that makes any sense, you've convinced your brain you just survived something. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. So I started boxing recently, and I feel that way whenever I go and spar. When I go and spar, like somebody's in front of you who wants to knock you out or punch you in the face at least. Like I kind of get the same feeling, but until the cold plunge, like I don't think we're evolved for hotter climates, so I think that could be a reason too. Like,
for sure.
I don't know, like cold stuff, man, is really difficult for me. I did it for a few days, but the third day it was like I was dreading my morning routine to the point where, I was like, nah, let me find something better.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hey, so actually, let's talk about this. You were talking about the boxers. How do you deal? I'm sure as you started to grow, you started getting criticism online. How did you deal with criticism online? And I'm talking about like legitimate criticism and also just haters who were just haters for being haters. How did you deal with it?
Yeah. So the thing about legitimate criticism is that if some degree of it is true, it does kind of hurt your feelings a little bit, But I think with doing YouTube for nearly 10 years now, that I've gotten so used to like just criticism in all formats. So I just try to like take what I see as like overall being suggested, and then I'll try to apply it. But when it comes to just pure hate or just disagreements, I just understand that social media is like a level of like varied opinions by the thousands. And so I know that not everybody's going to agree with me. I understand that a lot of people were raised differently or had different worldviews, or, are 14, 13 years old and don't really understand what I'm talking about. So, and then also one thing, the reason I also really don't hate trolls or haters is because I tell the story before is that I used to be one myself. I used to get like a dopamine hit when I was like 11, 12 years old on YouTube, just writing hate comments. It was just fun. And so of course I've grown out of that as I got more mature, but I kind of envisioned that side of me, like, oh, I used to be 12 years old writing hate comments for fun on YouTube just to get a reaction out of them.
Yeah. So. It's interesting because it's something, it was actually Zerka who told me this. He was like, we were discussing, I was like, because I watch Mr. Beast. No, I'm sorry. The point is I can't watch Mr. Beast. And when I watch some of the content from like Jake and Logan Paul, like their earlier content, I like Logan's podcast. His podcast is good. But I can't watch it. I watch this stuff and I'm like, who is watching this? I just don't understand. And then you find out there's this massive number of kids between 11 and like 16 who are watching YouTube, and they're fervent. Like they're extreme, and they leave these extreme comments. And you don't realize that until you actually look at some of the biggest content creators like PewDiePie. That was their core demographic, was these kids. And the same thing with a Dude Perfect, guys like that. That's where a lot of it came from. Even guys like Vitaly, and initially with Andrew Tate, that's what was going on. It's like a lot of kids in that demographic just really liked this content, and were jumping on board with it. But yeah, dealing with the haters, man, that is a difficult one. That is something that at first I was like, I'm ready to get into a fist fight with every single one of you guys. And after a while, after talking to my partners and my attorney, it just became one of these things where it's just like you kind of feel pity for them, and you move on, and you come to the realization. Hey, here's what actually did it for me. I was having dinner with like some very, very wealthy individuals, and I asked them, I was like, hey guys, have you ever left a negative YouTube comment or a negative TikTok comment or Instagram? And they're like, bro, I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know how to. And then I started to understand the negative comments, the correlation with a lack of success. And so that's why it just kind of stopped to bother me after a while.
Yeah, exactly. No successful, like driven guy who is on his mission is going to stop by to leave a hate comment.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys will lead their opinions, especially if you have a really polarizing view on something. Like for one example, I just give a quick example. I made a short talking about how I don't believe men should get married, but if I were to get married, I wouldn't kneel for the proposal. And that had like a lot of, controversial, like, hate comments or disagreeing, agreeing. But I expected that. It's a really polarizing sort of view. And so, I expect that. It is what it is.
That's great. So this is another thing. Speaking of this whole thing, you had guys like debating how tall you are. And this is something that's recently happened to me. where guys are just like in the chat. It is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, why they're so obsessed with this idea. Because you consider it's like women who are obsessed, but like when you're a content creator, I have guys telling me that I'm 5'6". Like I literally have a video of me standing next to Dwight Freeney, and he's 6'1" and I'm 6'1", and we're both was the same height. And these guys will not accept it. They're like, no, dude, you're 5'4", you're 5'6". It's one of the craziest things. And I'm just wondering, like, where do you think this comes from with these men being so obsessed with your height?
Yeah, if it comes to one question that I consistently gotten over the past 10 years is how tall are you? How tall are you? And then when I do state my height, half the guys say I'm lying. So I had never understood that either, man. Like I don't know the obsession with another man's height. Maybe because they're shorter, they want you to be either their height or like shorter than them,
Yeah.
so that they feel better than you. Is the only way I could possibly explain that. But I'm still trying to figure that out myself, man. I made a video recently and I was like clearing the air. Flat foot, I am 5'10" and a half. And
Yeah.
that's me being purely honest. With shoes on, everyday height, I'm about 5'11" to 6 foot, depending on who you ask. And people just still don't want to believe that. And I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it is one of the weird, like, read my ID if you want. You can look at my military records. I'm 6'1", but they just will not believe it. Now, here's the thing. I actually like the fact that they think I'm shorter because it helps my content. It actually like draws more people in there. So this is actually the first time I've even publicly addressed it. But like I only said how tall I was one time on whatever podcast, and I didn't say it to brag. I said it because I kind of feel for short guys. One of the things I said was when women have a necessity for men to be tall, that adaptation doesn't make sense anymore because some of the baddest men in the world, most Navy SEALs are under 6 feet tall. Some of the best boxers in the world, MMA fighters are under 6 feet tall. But men have this attribution where we don't want women who are either overweight or have a high body count. That still makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. That's still the health of my child and the likelihood of you cheating on me. Those still make sense. But a man being like, if you dating a man who's 5'9", he can carry a Glock or learn jujitsu. Like this ability to protect you just because he's taller, that's not a thing anymore. That adaptation is a mismatch. So that was the thing I said. And I said, well, I'm saying this as a guy who's 6'1". And they were like, no, that's not true. You can't be. And I was just like, why do you care so much? And the other thing is I have no problem with people believing I'm shorter. I've just never understood why people obsess with these guys. There's guys out there that are like, oh yeah, you were never in the military or you lied about your service. And I was like, dude, like that's crazy that like you would be obsessed with another man that way, and like a heterosexual being that obsessed with another man. But it's just one of these crazy things that I've seen that's happened recently, once I got to a certain point on YouTube.
Yeah, it's very similar in the fitness space too, with the accusation of enhancements in steroids, like actual like testosterone injecting. Back when I was really popular in that space, it was like 2017, 2018, as I was on the rise, like every day, accusations of steroid use, and it was kind of crazy. I had to make a whole video like addressing it. But in every vertical niche, there's going to be somebody talking crap and trying to disqualify whatever you for yourself or whatever value you have or even measurement.
Yeah.
Weird.
I do want to go back to the whole dating app concept because you ranked them. You said Tinder was the least effective, then Bumble, more effective because women have to message you first, and that Hinge was better than the other two. Can you go over that? Like why is there a difference? And do you know anything about Raya?
Yeah. So addressing the Hinge, Tinder, Bumble first, I've noticed that different dating apps have different quality of women on there. And in my experience, Tinder tends to be like the worst quality. You can still find like attractive girls on Tinder, especially depending on the city that you're in. In Miami, there are actually like quite a few attractive women on Tinder. They could have been sugar babies, of course, who knows? But, versus Bumble, there might be more attractive women and you might have a higher probability because women have to message you first. But Hinge is like, they've really done well with their marketing in terms of positioning themselves as not a Tinder. And for that reason, women who wouldn't have used dating apps otherwise now would get on Hinge and potentially meet a guy that way. And also Hinge has a really what they call based algorithm, which means that they're going to qualify and assess your attractiveness Elo score or whatever, and then they're only going to pair you and show you people who match that or have a similar algorithmic score to yourself. So if you're unattractive, if you have a low match to view ratio or percentage, they're going to pair you with women who have nearly the same or unattractive women for a big degree. And I know this to be true because I've seen it in action, but also I was with a friend of mine in a certain area, and I'm like, yo, Hinge, look at all these attractive women. But keep in mind, I showcase
Hmm.
multiple attractive areas of myself. But my friend, he was kind of overweight at the time. He didn't have great pictures, and all the girls on his feed were totally different. And that was very interesting to me. And then since that has confirmed my belief in that. And I have used Raya. I got accepted to it probably like 7 months ago. It's a very interesting app. It's obviously a little bit more status driven. I really didn't like it a whole lot, so I didn't use it. But it could be a way to network and collaborate and meet more higher status women who definitely want to be on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge.
Yeah, beautiful. And then you also mentioned you go because we talked about this dating app to Instagram and then the phone number. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you choose that route?
I choose that route because if you can position your Instagram in an attractive way, showing points of leverage, showcasing a sign of high status, high value, multiple pictures in different contexts, having a good follower to following ratio, attractive profile picture, etc., you can actually build upon that attraction to where it's higher than where she met you on the dating app, and also you're adding a bit more context to yourself to add social proof, and also it will subconsciously build more comfort. So I've noticed that whenever you go from dating app to phone number, of course you can still get dates that way, and I definitely have too, but I just find it to be more probable and less of a flake rate and higher attraction whenever I go through Instagram
Because
first.
she's thinking about you when you're not talking to her. She's thinking about you. The Instagram's doing the work when you guys aren't communicating.
Yeah, and out of sight, out of mind.
Hmm.
So if I schedule a date for Sunday and we're talking on Thursday or Wednesday, she's seeing the stories that I'm posting. She's seeing the pictures. She's probably scrolled down my whole entire feed. She's seeing who's liked. She's seeing who I followed, and so all these things just make me more of an attractive person. And so for that reason, I try to leverage Instagram as much as possible. And actually, a lot of girls will ask for your Instagram. Like, even if you try to give your number or give her your number, they might be like, "Oh, what's your IG first?"
Hmm.
Because they feel more comfortable
Yeah.
seeing a guy's IG versus going right and giving out the number to a random guy on Tinder or Hinge or Bumble.
Yeah. And I think you agree with me. It's still 80-90% Instagram. If I want to meet girls to date, or if I want to throw a party or something like that, I can't do that off TikTok yet. TikTok doesn't have a robust DM feature. Can't really do that off Twitter. There's not a whole bunch of hot girls on Twitter. Facebook, yes, if they're over 35. But like it's still Instagram. Even though the world's changed a little bit, Instagram still seems like the main place to. Like if you recruit for a bikini competition, it's going to be 95% Instagram. That's the way that's going to work. Props in bio. Can you go over that? Like that's not something I'm very familiar with. How does that work as far as like optimizing your dating profile?
Yeah, so there's different pillars of presentation when it comes to online dating. There's going to be your pictures, which are obviously the most important, but then there's your prompts and bio. Prompts and bio should be used to evoke emotion to get women to message you first. That's the only reason you should use prompts and bios. And a lot of guys kind of treat it like a autobiography, kind of describing themselves too much, losing mystery, especially with their bio or their prompts. Guys are too logical, which means that they speak in face value. So if the prompt says, here's what I do on a typical Sunday, guys will literally say what they do on a typical Sunday because once again, they're too logical in their approach. However, if you can phrase it in a unique, witty, charismatic way to make it elicit an emotional response from a woman to where she'll look at it and think that it's funny or be intrigued or whatever it may be, emotional response, you have a higher likelihood of actually making the connection with that woman because you were able to get her to message you outside of just your photos, or maybe it gave her an excuse to actually create conversation with you. She matched with you, she found you attractive, but but now she actually sends you a message. And then also getting deeper into stats, you'll notice that women who come to you first or message you first, you'll have a higher probability of actually getting that woman out on a date than those who don't.
Mm.
So That's why you want to use prompts, bios, and your pictures as like a whole trifecta to create that perfect dating app profile.
Yeah, I loved that you were looking for those data points. You said when you went back and looked at all the women you had a successful interaction with, the likelihood of you having a successful interaction correlated with whether or not they messaged you first. So I think that's a really great data point for people to look at. And the other thing is, you talk about on a date, a couple things. You don't want to do a coffee shop date because it could be too plutonic, and 2 hours and 2 locations, which I really loved. I actually got that from Mystery. I met Mystery, 15 years ago, and he was talking about, mini dates, going on Insta dates from one place to another and changing location because it builds comfort.
Yeah, it builds comfort, and it just feels like you experience more with that person. If a guy is trying to like go for a close on a first date, if you just sit there in one spot, then try to pull it back to your place, like good luck, But if you sit at one spot, if you walk here, if you go to a nice place, throw some darts, then if you go get some ice cream, sit by the park bench, or even bounce locations, it feels like you guys have been on 2, 3, 4 dates, especially if it's been quite some time, But I personally follow the 2 hour rule
Mm-hmm.
because I don't really like super long, drawn out first dates, like
Mm-hmm.
4, 5, 6 hours. Of course, I've had my share with them, but I believe the first date should be pretty much like a qualification. Is she the type of girl, and are you the type of guy to where you guys sort of connect? You have a good conversation, and the next date you guys can arrange something, and you potentially could escalate more to things further. But I found that that 2 hour mark is like the sweet spot on a first date to where you've had enough conversation to where it doesn't feel too long, but also it doesn't feel too short. And then you also want to be the first one to end the date first. You never want to be
Yeah.
the date to be so drawn out to where the girl's like, oh, I'm getting tired, or, I never had a girl end a first date on me. It's
Yeah.
always me.
That's awesome. I also, kind of a similar thing. I also think that while women may be the gatekeepers of sex, the gatekeeper of a relationship should be you. It should not be a situation where she made you wait for sex and then you started asking her, what are we, and saying you wanted to be in a relationship. Even if you desperately want to be in a relationship with a woman, you need to wait until she is the one who brings it up. I mean, it's just dangerous if you don't do it that way.
Yeah, and they'll bring it up in subtle ways. What are we? Where's this going? What do you see with me? Those are all her ways of saying, like, hey, I would potentially want something serious with you. And
Yeah.
once you get to that point, that's when you can kind of, either give her a relationship or make her work for it a little bit longer. But I also believe that a woman should earn a relationship and exclusivity from you throughout time. That way she respects you and overall the whole relationship more.
You talked about 2 points of leverage and with attraction triggers. If we're going to say we have a guy who's watching this and he's not particularly tall or good looking, what are some of the 2 points of leverage that he could have in order to attract women?
Oh, okay. So yeah, a good image showcases, at least, as you said, 2 points of leverage, meaning that's something that makes you stand out. That's what makes a great picture. So if you're not that attractive, tall, anybody can have great style. All right, that can be a point of leverage to where you showcase, sex appeal through your style. It's unique. You just can dress. You just look well put together. You're not wearing, just t-shirt and jeans. You have a bit of a taste, and then also your environment, showcasing high status environments or scarce environments, traveling pictures, places to where it's just unique and not easily accessible. Or 3, even resources, if you can arrange that. So like that can be material objects, cars, nice watches, whatever it may be. And then 4 is going to be, this kind of ties into style, but sex appeal. If you can showcase some degree of sex appeal, even if you're not attractive, that's going to make you more attractive in the
Mm.
eyes of a woman. So there are many ways to showcase sex appeal. A lot has to do with physicality, but even, jewelry, beard, faded hairstyles, all this stuff showcases degrees of sex appeal.
Yeah. And I think there's an important distinction there when you talked before about leading with money. if you're giving a woman gifts or money directly in exchange for her affection, that's bad. But if you're a guy who has mansion parties every month or whatever, and everyone comes and the party's catered and she gets to experience the fact that you're wealthy rather than you spending money directly on her, that's way better. If you use wealth to create an experience, this is the reason, like, you guys in Miami have this thing we don't have here, which is come on my yacht. We don't have come on my yacht in Vegas, but you guys have the girl is about to go on a date with you, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, she got the come on my yacht message. That thing, what it is, what the yacht is, it's not you spending money on the woman, but you're creating an experience, really good logistics, and a really good ratio. And so that's how you use money. You use money to create a funnel in order, or create a reality so that she feels more comfortable, or you can put things into your favor, like the ratio or logistics or something like that. That's what money should be used for. It should not be used for buying women gifts initially in order to exchange those gifts for affection. By the way, you're never going to recover from that. If you start off that way, that's always going to be the dynamic of the relationship. I want to ask you this question. If you were going to give attributes, so let's just say we have 100% of attractiveness towards women, and you were going to give a certain percentage to different attributes. So this would be height, this would be game, this would be social alignments, this would be physical attractiveness, this would be, upper body muscle, etc. If you were just going to throw out a couple of these attributes, what percentage would you relate to each one of these things?
In terms of what women find most universally attractive?
Yeah, yes.
Gotcha. Oh, it's highly dependent on your dating strategy, I would say. But in my opinion, I would say physicality is on the high end. I would say at least 50%.
Okay.
Probably, yeah, 50%. Actually, it depends on how many we have. We have physicality, social skills. What's another one? Status. It depends on how many variables we're talking about, honestly. Like if I have maybe just 3, I can create a percentage, but I could probably think of like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So that'll make it kind of difficult.
Yeah. Well, but
so
just looks alone, what percentage would you give that?
I would give that the highest one. So maybe like 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
Because looks is what kind of gets you in the door in a lot of contexts and scenarios. I'm not sure if you agree with this, but even if you position yourself in a familiar environment, if the woman's not attracted to you,
of course,
that leads to like being friend zoned or being the guy to where you have to court her and get to know her for months or years on end before she'll give you a chance. Like the guy who's just more physically attractive in any means is always going to win versus the guy who is not. In my experience.
Got it. Yeah. No, for me, I would say I would put status as probably the biggest one, because I've just seen too many guys who weren't that physically attractive just dominate because, I've been at too many parties with too many celebrities and just seen them just pull the girl. So that's the only reason why I would say I would put status above everything else. But then afterwards, I'd say physical attractiveness is really good. But I do think you can game your way past physical attractiveness. I've just also seen that too many times. The guy who's really funny, really socially aligned, or the guy who uses pre-selection in order to make women compete for his attention. And then all of a sudden she just doesn't even recognize why she's attracted to this guy who's shorter than anyone she's ever dated before. So I've seen all of that work, but those are the exceptions. I think you're talking about in a vacuum. I agree with what you're saying.
True. Yeah. There's so many variables and exceptions. I wasn't even thinking about status. I also agree with that too. But I would say like high degrees of status.
Yeah.
Or if you have any sort of what's it called when you're in a contextual environment, you have high status in a contextual environment. For example, like you're the bartender or the bouncer at a nightclub, but you're not the most attractive. Like you're gonna win versus the 6'5" Chad that walks in, who knows nobody and is a wallflower.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I agree.
I've definitely seen that. And then the other thing is, I really appreciate this when you say pay attention to people's actions instead of their words. And you talk about this concept that nothing matters until you have sex with her. And I know to a lot of people listening to that sounds very arcane. It sounds, somewhat, immature. But the reality of the situation is if you've been a guy and you've dated for a while, you understand that when you aren't having sex with a girl, remember we talked about there's always some other dude there. And like when a woman is dating multiple men but having sex with one of them, there's a part of her brain that does not allow dopamine or oxytocin to be released with these other men because she's giving her sex to some other guy. And men, it's like this paranoia that we feel, it actually is based in evolution. There's a reason for it. And you said this before. It's like, doesn't matter how I've seen women grab dudes' dicks. I've seen women say, I'm going to have sex with you. I've seen women do every single thing. But until they actually do that, none of the rest of it matters.
Yeah, and that came once again anecdotally from my own experiences. Like, you can have a girl send you nudes, you can have a girl like be talking crazy to you, saying she's going to do this, that. You can have a girl who you've been out on 3, 4, 5 dates with, have gotten close to having sex, and then she just go ghost. And so that's when I came to the conclusion, like, nothing matters in terms of their actions until they have sex with you, because by then that's like the ultimate validation of like, hey, you like me. And otherwise I just keep everything in the air. Like, I almost expect everything to go wrong if we haven't had sex up to a point.
Yeah, so because I remember reading, you talking about So Suave forums, I remember reading the guys would have like lay reports on these different forums, and they would talk about a girl they were gonna have sex with, or like she was super into me, and I'm like, you just never know. People can say anything they want, you just don't know. That's why I always say, so for me, attention is above the belly button and compliance is below the belly button. Anything when she's texting you or she's shit testing you or she's talking whatever, that's attention. It could mean interest, but it also might not mean interest. Below the belly button, if she walks to you, she leaves with you, she walks arm in arm with you, she comes to your place, she cooks for you, or she has sex with you. Those are compliance things, and those actually do mean interest. Women are not going to go back to your place, spend time with you, or especially cook for you if they're not interested in you. So that's why I say below the belly button. A woman sends you nudes, that's above the belly button. That's her thumbs. She sent those nudes to 30 other dudes, so it doesn't really matter. But I just love this concept. And I know it might come across as crass to women who are listening to this, but like if you're a man and you've been taken advantage of, you've gone on dates with women where they lead you on, you kind of understand this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all of a sudden a man has enough leverage. You talk about different points of leverage. One point of leverage is if you're having good sex with a woman. You're actually, if there's other guys who come into her field of view and they're better looking or richer or whatever, but you're having good sex with her, that's a huge point of leverage where you might be able to maintain a girl you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I was saying, you want to be her first or be her best.
Yeah.
And in terms of her best, that includes sexually too. So if you can give yourself that leverage, even if you don't have anything else going for yourself to some degree, she might at least keep you around for that.
Yeah.
So always try to find out how you can be either her first or her best, but especially her best for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when men are getting used for sex, we don't feel as offended. It's not really
exactly.
It's like whatever. We're still buddies. Whatever. All right. A couple things. I'm coming out to Miami in May to host Babes in Toyland. It's an animal rescue charity. We usually have about 75 guys, maybe about 300 girls that come to that. I want you and FitX and you guys all come. I'd love to show you. Also, you can see how like we work some social circle stuff. So I'd love to see you guys when you come out there. And if you guys ever come out to Vegas, please let me know if you need any help or if you want locations, Fremont, place like that to do the man on the street videos that you do, which I love those things. Or if you guys want to get into any nightclubs, just let me know. I'll make sure to set it up, man, because a big fan of your content, you and Bismarck.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that'll be awesome in Miami, and I'll definitely let you know next time I'm in Vegas. I actually went for New Year's. I was in the Cosmopolitan Suite watching the fireworks. It was pretty dope, man. Yeah. So I'll be back.
That's awesome, man. All right, man. Where can people find you, Austin?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere, Austin Dunham, Instagram based Austin Dunham. And for my services and coaching, thedigitalromeo.com.
What kind of services do you do any, by the way, do you do any live events?
Live events? No, I haven't dabbled into live events yet. That's on my goal list this year, if not definitely next year, but one day.
Okay. If you ever want to, by the way, it's another thing. If you guys ever want to talk about sales team, sales process, funnel, live events, any of that kind of stuff, I'm friends with Dan Fleischman, Ty Lopez. They're the ones who taught me. They mastered this stuff. So if you guys ever want any help with that, please let me know. I'm doing, by the way, I have a week-long live event right now. Every day of the week I teach. I've got 25 clients in town that I'm doing. It's called Vegas Immersion that we're doing. So yeah, if you guys ever want to go over that, that's cool. And then you'll do all kinds of services from maybe looking at their social media, photos, stuff like that. What are the kind of stuff you do with your coaching?
Yeah. So first off, we work on fixing your presentation so that you can represent that to a digital image. So finding ways to make yourself more attractive, fixing your style, learning how to source photographers, learning how to represent those points of leverage, like we mentioned, fixing your social media, your Instagram, learning how to implement the sales process of dating in terms of the funneling system, text game, setting updates, and even when it comes to networking on social media, and also getting brand sponsorships. I had a guy recently just land a few brand deals for a few fashion companies through his newfound presentation. So all aspects of social media, dating, and just overall masculinity too, we help with. So
I
yeah.
love it. All right, man. Make sure you check out his channels. You got several channels on YouTube and several different places, and check out his website, guys. Thank you all for joining us. I really love these conversations, man. I reached out to him because I'd seen a lot of his great content, and we have a lot in common, but it's a really good conversation. I appreciate all of you watching the show to give me this platform so that we can have these conversations, and we can have these conversations where we're not just trying to throw out red meat and trying to get clicks. A lot of times we're trying to educate and inform. So I do appreciate that, guys, and I will see all of you next week.